Hey guys, Mix here, and in today's video we're back with my half-scale NASCAR. So in last video, we got this thing to start for the first time in 4 years that this thing has been sitting outside, completely abandoned, and it still hasn't moved from the spot. But in today's video, we should hopefully be able to get this thing to move under its own power. So last video, as I said, we got it to start, but we didn't get it to run. All we really did is hear this thing just come to life and prove to me that it will run once again. I had to use starter fluid to get it to start. I couldn't get it to start any other way, but we basically figured out electrical issues, we figured out spark issues, and we got it to start. But today, we're going to be dealing with some fueling issues, which are the reason I believe that it's not actually running on its own fuel system and staying running. We saw in last video that the fuel tank is completely rusted out. We went ahead and threw in some temporary fuel lines just to get it to see if we can try to get it pull some fuel, but obviously that didn't work. So over here, resting on its body, we have a brand new fuel tank, exactly the same one that's in there that we're going to be replacing it with, along with taking off the rest of the horrible fuel line. This stuff is like rock solid. I can basically probably just snap it in half with my hands. And also, we're going to be taking off these carbs, cleaning them out. If I had to guess, they're definitely gummed up a little bit. And from there, we're going to see if this thing will pull fuel and run under its own power. And if it does, we're going to try and get in it, put it in gear for the first time in 4 years, and see if it'll move under its own power. Now, obviously, I've said it in last video, I'm very upset with myself on how I let this thing just sit here, but due to storage issues and just life, it just sat here and did absolutely nothing. I drove it once, and it was absolutely terrifying, but I'm hoping to fix a lot of issues with it and get it to run once again. So guys, with that being said, what I want to go ahead and do is start off with taking off all of this old extra fuel line and the gas tank, go ahead and get the new stuff swapped in, and then from there work our way up, take off these carburetors and see how they're looking. Usually when I let stuff sit, if I know that they're gonna sit, I usually let it run out of gas. So typically with like mini bikes, I just turn off the fuel switch and basically just run it until it won't start anymore. And with this, it has an electric fuel pump. I'm not sure if I remember doing this, but basically I have done it a few times. I don't know if I did it the last time it ran, was I just let it run, turn off the fuel pump, and then basically turn on the chokes and just let it run out of gas so the bowls are nice and empty. But based on what we did in the last video, I don't believe that they are clean, just because we had a fuel from a clean fuel tank temporarily and it still was not running under its own fuel system. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started and get all this old stuff off. Alright guys, so the new fuel tank is in. The old one was so bad that the petcock actually rusted out from inside. This literally just fell right out. And as you guys can hear, this fuel line is absolutely rock solid. So we have legit fuel line on there now. I honestly don't even know what kind of tubing that was, but definitely wasn't fuel line, so we're all good there. Next up, what I want to go ahead and do is start popping off these carbs. Another thing we're going to do is reroute this power line. That's just one of the temporary things we did in last video to try and fix one of the electrical issues, but as obviously it's hovering over the chain, so that's not very safe. So I'm just going to reroute that too. Not going to bother recording that because that would be nice and easy, but I'm really curious to see how these carburetors are looking. So I'm going to start with this one, and then we'll work our way over. Alright guys, so the first carb is off. And one thing that we need to go ahead and replace is this boot, because it is completely ripped, and that is going to cause a major air leak. As you guys can see, it's completely ripped. Let's go ahead, rip into this first carb and see how we're looking. So the fuel that was in the gas tank smelled so bad. It was pure bad fuel. Honestly, I don't even know if it was going to be flammable anymore. Go. And alright, not bad, but not great. There's a lot of old fuel in there. Yeah, definitely, actually, yeah, pretty bad actually. This is really gummed up. So as you can see, the needle is completely gummed up. Tons and tons of corrosion on it. The carburetor itself looks pretty good, but where it really matters, the jets, is not good. And down here in the bowl is really corroded up, tons of bad fuel, and down where the jet actually sits, has a lot of corrosion. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up and then move on to the next one. So guys, I just took off this little intake boot to go get a new one, but I thought for some reason that I might have had some more for when we did this dual carb swap, and turns out I have one. It's kind of used, but it's not ripped, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop this thing on, which will be plenty good. Put this car back on, start running the fuel lines, and then do the first fuel up and check for any leaks, and from there try and do the first fire up. Good. Alrighty guys, so both of the carbs are back on. They were really bad. This one was really bad. The jet was one of the most clogged jets I've ever had. I had to use a wire and literally push as hard as I can to get out all of that crud in the jet, but both are clean. I also went ahead and rerouted that power line, so shouldn't get caught up in the chains or anything like that. But as you can see, have my fuel can. Gonna go ahead and do the first fuel up, check for any leaks anywhere, prime the fuel system, make sure that the carbs are getting fuel, and then from there we can go ahead and try and fire this thing up. Fuel switch is on. It just picked up fuel. The return line, it does have fuel. Okay, so it is returning. And no leaks so far. I see the fuel flowing in the T. Go ahead and crank it. Key on, ignition on. I still need to jump this, unfortunately, but let's see what happens. Let me pop this thing on the charger quick, and then we'll try and start it again. But we do have very good fuel flow, no leaks so far, so we are looking real good. Alright, so before we go ahead and fire this thing up, I want to go ahead and check the brake fluid, which is something I thought I'd never say again, just in case we do end up driving this thing, and it is actually right at the top, which is surprising. So I guess there's no leaks in the brake system, which is always good. Alright, so I've had this thing on the charger for quite a bit now. I want to go ahead and give it a shot. There should be enough juice in the battery now to go ahead and try and crank this thing to life. Key on, ignition on. Here we go. Woo, there we go. We got a small leak over here. That's an easy fix though. Alright, so one thing I do want to do, just because since I have to be back here to try and start it and I can't be up front hitting the gas, is I want to go ahead and just equalize the carbs with the throttles and everything, because cleaning them I could have mismatched them over the years. They could have spun, taking on and off the body or whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and just try and even them out, and then once I get them equal, I'm going to keep the idle a little bit higher, so that way if it does run, it can high idle a little bit, and then I can adjust it from there. Alright, so I think I got the carbs pretty much equal, and they are a little bit higher than before, so now let's see what happens. Oh boy, that was quick. Try some choke. Pedal it a few times. Try this again. Woo! Alright. Holy cow, it just ran, and it was definitely on fuel, so I did go ahead and just test the kill switch because I'm not actually sure if it was working. It is working. So guys, I know that this thing is going to fire up as soon as I think the next crank, because I think this thing would have stayed running if I didn't cut it off, but it is getting later, the sun is going down, and I have to be courteous to my neighbors, so I am going to go ahead and cut it off here for tonight, because as you guys remember, this thing is extremely loud. I'm going to pick it up back tomorrow, where hopefully we're going to get it running completely, have it idling, which I think it's about ready to do, and then I'm going to try pushing that clutch and put it in gear for the first time, and see what happens, see what stays together, see what doesn't, and if this thing will actually still move under its own power. So with that being said, I will see you all tomorrow. So guys, we are back here the next day, and I have not done a thing to this, and I think it's gonna fire right up. I had to cut it off yesterday because it was getting late. With this thing coming back to life, I did not want to start its first start, you know, that late. But now we could go ahead and fire this thing up and hopefully have it run and maybe even put it in drive. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. Let's see if this thing will fire up. Turn on the chokes, and here we go. It still wants to choke on. I got this thing cut off for right now. I just want to go ahead and put some air in the tires because, well, that is not good at all. Yep, 0 pounds. And this will bring the car up a little bit so it doesn't drag the underneath completely across the ground. But once I get these tire pressures filling up, I'm going to go ahead and put this thing in gear and see what happens, see if the clutch is actually still working. Never mind.
Eventually.
Alrighty guys, so we were back here the next day from the last clips, and as you guys saw, every time I went to put this thing in gear, it would stall, die immediately. It doesn't matter how high I revved it, or if I didn't rev it at all, it would just die. So the clutch does not seem to be working right now. Now on the handle itself, it feels fine, it's returning, it feels nice and strong, but this could either be a few things. Some of the clutch discs could be stuck together from sitting for so long. And I've had this happen to me before with bikes that were sitting, you know, for years, as you know, multiple dirt bikes that we've had, and you just have to keep running it and running it and running it, and eventually they unstick, and then the clutch works perfectly fine. I mean, this thing has always been able to drive, so I don't know if we just have to keep running it and keep trying until eventually it works, or if there's actually something mechanically wrong. I mean, it's not hard to get access to the clutch if we need to. With the way this is all set up, I could just literally just pull right out and take a look, but I'll have to get the gasket and everything for that if we do have to do that. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end it off for here for now, because ideally in this video I really wanted to make sure that this thing still actually ran, which it does, and it runs strong. I forgot how loud this thing is, so that is a good sign. And off camera, I'm just gonna go ahead and try and figure out this whole clutch situation, and if I have success or not, I'll catch you guys back in another video with this thing, where hopefully we're able to drive it and really get this thing dialed in and see what holds and what doesn't when it's put under load. So guys, with that being said, I'm going to be ending off the video here. Like I said before, stay tuned for hopefully a driving video with this thing coming soon. I just got to try and just, you know, really figure out what's going on with this thing, and then I think we should be good from there. I don't think it's anything major because this thing did drive when it was parked, so I'm sure I'll figure it out like we always do. But anyway guys, with that being said, I'm going to be ending off this video here. Follow my social medias, they'll be on the outro of this video, Instagram and Snapchat I use the most. But thanks for watching, please subscribe, like, comment, tell your friends about the channel.